everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Tales from Space Mutant Blobs Attack. This is part of the Tales from Space series from Drinkbox Studios. I believe there was one on PSN before this, but this is actually a PS Vita launch title that has now, as I press the start button here to make sure that we don't go through the cutscene too early, has now become a Steam release. This is a game, I'm just going to get it right out of the way from the start here. I'm playing a pre-release copy. This is a very, very good game that unfortunately suffers from one damning control flaw that I think makes it more difficult to recommend than I would like. But without further ado, we're going to get started here. Perhaps I can show you this in options. Doesn't look like it. I'll show you it in keyboard controls when we get into the game. So we're going to go to story mode. The basic story of the game is that we play as this blob that was kept in this college laboratory. And we start out at like 2 centimeters tall or something like that. Like 1.5 centimeters tall. It's like slightly less than an inch for you imperial folks out there from the United States or Equatorial Guinea. And as time goes on, we like break out of our college and we start absorbing objects. And the bigger we get, the more basically terror we can cause. So we start in the college, then we go to the town. We start by eating like thumbtacks and erasers and things like that. Then we eat people and buildings and tanks. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit far ahead of myself. Let's just start on like level 2 here, so I can show you what the heck is going on. So we're playing as this blob here, and you can pretty much just think of this game in a lot of ways as Gish. We play as this blob. We can like do a ground pound to damage objects in our environment, and it's very much like a puzzle platformer where we're trying to like avoid getting killed by things in our environment. Obviously, is a nice thing to do. And there's various objects that we can pick up. So for example, we can pick up our blue things here, which basically just give us points, and we can also start absorbing things as we enter into a new area. So yeah, we can start absorbing these bolts, watching out for these things that will crush us, using vents and other things in the environment. But you can see, like, right now we're not strong enough to just break this just by getting pushed up, so we have to figure out some way to break that. But we also have this cork in our way, so we go to this cork and we see that this is too big for us to absorb. Things that are too big for us to absorb get in this weird, like, yellow outline. But if we roll over this and look at the top right, it tells us how big we need to be. We need to be 4 centimeters tall in order to absorb this. So basically this is how things work so far. Anyway, I've got about maybe an hour into Mutant Blobs Attack here. This basically you enter into arenas, and your job is to collect almost all, at least a certain percentage of the particles or particulates in there in order to become the size that you need to progress. And you can see that I did it there. There's also some extra unlockables here. If I just actually get up in the right spot, let's do it this way. Let's go straight down using our ground pound. We can do some Super Meat Boy-esque wall jumping here, and we can pick up some of our friends and just absorb them. I've already gotten them, but normally that would be like a character that we would just absorb into ourselves just to give us extra points and extra, you know, ranking potential and stuff like that. So we travel through the pipes. This might be a level, yeah, it has a little bit of like a platforming puzzle here. So obviously you want to jump over the fires of 1,000 suns that just sit there. So far, I gotta admit, there are times when I really, really like Mutant Blobs Attack, and there are times when I'm absolutely 100% frustrated by it, and I think we're coming up to that point right now. So you can see I need to be 6 centimeters, so I need to grow a little bit bigger, but I can continue getting bigger by absorbing objects like these packing peanuts, this popcorn and stuff like that. The blue things don't actually make us larger, they just give us points, I believe. Here's the problem. So, use the left mouse button to drag green control points and move objects. There is no Xbox 360 controller analog to this. So I actually, like, if I'm holding my controller, I have to put it down, switch to my mouse, which you can now see moving here, then move this thing out of the way and kind of like continue to manipulate myself. Some of you might be saying, maybe this isn't really a big problem. I mean, you can control this with a PC. I'm going to switch to PC controls for a second here. But the controls, just because there's so much shit you can do in this game, are remarkably awkward. I mean, naturally, I have a natural affinity for playing platformers with an Xbox 360 controller, or some kind of controller in general. It's just the way I grew up, right? But you can do things this way. The problem is there's just so much stuff to do. It's like WASD to move around. You can use space or right mouse button to jump. Middle mouse button is ground pound. Then you can use shift as like a kind of like a sprint, as we'll see soon. I think shift was the sprint, but it just feels very, very awkward. Actually, no, the ground pound is not just middle mouse button, because, you know, a lot of people don't have middle mouse buttons. In fact, like, I'm just clicking my scroll wheel right now, which is a little bit awkward for something that you use so often in this game. But beyond that, you can also use the quotation mark / apostrophe key. It just strikes me like this game, it's weird because it plays, for me, it feels like it plays so much better. We gotta move fast here. Oh god, I forgot what jump was. It plays so much better to me with the Xbox 360 controller, and we're taking damage here like crazy. But unfortunately, like, wall jumping on the PC has just never felt right to me, even with like N and N+. But yeah, we did get slightly big enough there. We finished the level. Now I can actually form my thoughts into a coherent sentence here. Like, wall jumping has never felt right to me on PC. It's a game that 9 times out of 10 seems to control way better with the Xbox 360 controller. Unfortunately, like, I'll show you. I bet a lot of you probably think I'm just missing something. So we'll go back into this level, and maybe I can check out the controls. You can see that's the PC controls. Look at how much shit there is to do. I mean, this is before we get into, like, repelling and attracting magnetic objects or having rocket boosts and stuff like that. This is the Xbox 360 layout, as you can see. And it uses the, oh, if we go back, left mouse button and right mouse button, which I find crazy that it has like a dual control system like this. I don't think it totally kills the game, but it really takes me out of the experience a lot of the time. I mean, my option is like I can use the PC controls if I want to, but I don't really like the PC controls. Like, there's just so much stuff that you have to do, especially as you're moving forward in the game. But other than that, I really like the game. It's unfortunate that the one problem I have with the game seems large enough that it almost makes me recommend against it, unless you think you could see yourself playing this with PC controls, despite having like 30 inputs, using controls like, you know, quotation mark and the apostrophe and stuff like that. So basically what we're doing here is we have the ability to manipulate our magnetism. Oh, that's not right. So by using right trigger, we can repel ourselves from metallic objects, and left trigger, this is not proper platforming here, by the way. Yeah, right trigger repel ourselves from magnetic objects, or right shift if you're on the PC, and left trigger to draw us closer. By the way, look in the background as we go through these levels. You'll see a lot of references to internet culture and indie gaming culture as well. For example, Soup Brothers present Sweet and Sour Soup, obviously a reference to Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery EP. There's lots of stuff like this that you will see in this level. This is actually a really cool level because this demonstrates the scope. I'm going to switch to PC controls here for a second. This demonstrates the scope of the growth that you get of the game. The scope of the growth. I don't know why that sounded so cool to me. So basically we're just manipulating these platforms to try to shoot as much of that garbage out here as we can, so we can actually end up eating it. And then using these things like pinball flippers, send it through the ends so we can eat it and actually get out of here. So you can see before we were what? Trying to get like 2 centimeters tall. There, as I move my mouse out of the way and switch back to the Xbox 360 briefly. That's how unnatural the PC controls feel to me, is that I would rather use the Xbox 360 controller most of the time and then switch back to the PC than use the PC controls the entire time. And this is not a PC versus console argument. God damn, that was horrible. This is not a PC versus console argument. I use my PC controls for a lot of games, particularly, you know, like first-person shooters and stuff like that, RTS. This is just a situation where on the 360 controller, the controls feel better, except for the fact that they just don't work for every kind of input you need. There's like a Skulls of the Shogun reference. People will probably be hearing more about that game if they haven't already, a little bit later on this year when Windows 8 comes out. So we're, oh, don't get back on the gears can sometimes crush you, but in this situation I don't think they were designed to. Yeah, everything else about this game, I enjoy the weird kind of aesthetic. I enjoy, this part is really good, especially if I don't die doing it. I didn't realize that you could actually kill those. So where I am right now, like, these guys are all like, hey, stop terrorizing our village, or our city. And I'm just like, no. But you can see I can't absorb all of this stuff yet, but if I come back here, I will eventually get big enough, as I reach like 4 meters now, where I will be able to absorb these tanks and helicopters. I can almost do it now, I think. We've got to be getting pretty close. Maybe that baby stroller would be enough to do it. Yeah, now I can absorb like these tanks and helicopters and stuff, and really start just wreaking havoc. So one thing I really do love about the game is the way that you change from being like this very small, kind of like office supply menace into this true monster. And when this game came out, it got a ton of praise. Being regarded as definitely one of the best PS Vita titles out there, downloadable anyway. Oh, it's a Dryad reference, or a Dyad reference. I wouldn't have gotten that until like a couple weeks ago. But anyway, it just sort of doesn't work on this. Except, like, there's going to be a subset of people who are watching this as I set off this rocket and prepare to launch for the moon. There's going to be a subset of people watching this who are like, I don't have an Xbox 360 controller, I don't care anyway. I'm telling you, in all earnest, this is not a console versus PC thing. The controls on the PC are super wonky, and on the 360 they're basically broken. To put it as politely as I can, they are basically broken, or incomplete. So we're headed to the moon here. Although it looks like we've diverted and decided to head into the sun. Or at least that is the plan, maybe, of these guys here. So I'm going to switch back to full PC controls and see, even though it seems totally unnatural to me. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show off one of the bonus levels first. Let's see how we rank here. 14th. It's because it's pre-release right now. I'll probably be like 10,000th next week. So let's check out these levels right here. Occasionally you'll find these bonus levels, where basically all you're doing is like super monkey balling around. And I actually really enjoyed these levels. I was ranked 2 in this last night, but I'm going to see if I can... Oh, that's not going to do it. Let's restart quickly. I don't want to get my OCD going too strong here, but... Also, I don't mean to make light of anybody who actually suffers from OCD. This is the popular term for OCD, where I can't leave anything behind. So let's collect all this. So these levels are kind of cool. I mean, there's one in the second world that I've seen so far as well. And it was basically the same thing, it just had a different aesthetic. It was almost like Super Meat Boy in the sense where it seemed like every bonus level has kind of a different aesthetic, you know, the same way that the Super Meat Boy ones occasionally, some of them look like, you know, Mr. Game & Watch levels, and some of them look like, you know, Game Boy games and stuff like that. So far, so good. But there seem to be less of them, and there's only like 5 or 6 worlds. Oh, whatever. We'll just leave. I'm only gonna get a silver, probably. Yeah, it's not good enough to beat my previous best. But yeah, this doesn't even... These levels are cool, they're fun, they're short, as you can see. I mean, a lot of the levels in the game are pretty short. I am still ranked 2 here, with very flattering to me. Let's check out some of these later levels. I'll switch totally to PC controls, but we'll see. Yeah, it looks like there's 6 levels. It probably ends at Metropolis, is my guess, based on the big X there at the very end of Metropolis. But yeah, let's switch to PC controls here, and get started. Oh, okay, so this is something, I guess we're going to be in zero grav here. Basically, by using the WASD keys as well as the right mouse button, I can kind of rocket myself through space, which is kind of neat. Again, this is the kind of thing where I feel like it feels a lot better on the Xbox 360 controller. However, you can see some of the more advanced platforming elements, or maybe advanced is not the best term for it, but some of the more challenging ones, compared to the stuff that we saw earlier, barely made that, and we're just trying to get a little bigger right now so we can actually get some of these corks. How big do we need to be? 82.5 centimeters. We are actually smaller than we used to be. Clearly we cannot go in that way. Let's try going in this way. Remember, this is the first time that I've actually played this level. So we should be able to absorb all these batteries, I'm hoping. Provided that we don't get swung around too weirdly here. And this might allow us to open up this cork. No, we're not nearly big enough for that, but probably one of the corks back here. It's frustrating because there are segments of time, like many minutes at a time, which in this game is actually, you know, kind of substantial because it's not that long and the levels are quite short. Where I'm actually like thinking like this is one of the coolest games I've played so far this year. It bears a more than a striking similarity to Gish, but it does good things as well. And it seems original enough in its own right. Like Gish was more about combat to a certain extent. This is more about just kind of like puzzle platforming, which is cool. I don't think this is a ripoff of Gish by any extent, any stretch of the imagination. But then, like, as soon as one of those elements comes in, where I either have to switch from my controller or, like, navigate the PC controls, which strike me as incredibly awkward, oh god. This reminds me of a puzzle from Super Meat Boy. I just, yeah, do not have a good time with it after that. So it's one of those things, oh, damn, where I'm like, this game is probably, like, if you looked at it objectively, which I'm trying to do, apart from the control issues, this could easily be considered maybe one of the best games of the year. The best indie games of the year, anyway. Not to say that the indie games of the year are worse than the regular games of the year. Just, you know, bear with me here for a second. However, because of that control issues, there's a lot of time I spend with this where I actually am not really having that much fun playing it. And, oh, I didn't even know what that did. Oh, I'm trying to get to the green thing. I guess that doesn't do anything. Oh, or maybe you just can't be a rocket to go through? I don't know. Maybe I'm trapped in here forever now. Yes, please give me a tip. And now I'm using the PC controls and I have to use Y to get to the tip. Use the left mouse. Oh, right. Totally forgot about this. Alright, we can move this whole thing then? Oh, we can just turn it. Okay. That's interesting. Kind of like that. Not gonna lie. Do the same thing here. Try to get it as level as possible. Ooh, that was not good. Yeah, seriously, there are times like this where I actually like thoroughly enjoy my time with the game, but there's other times that I'm like, ugh, I don't know if I could see myself playing this because the controls are so frustrating. It reminds me to a certain extent of like the London 2012 video, where it wasn't really a mistake, it was an oversight on my part. I played the entire thing using the Xbox 360 controller and said that it was pretty good, And then people were like, oh, you know how we should do this? We should probably do it like, nah, we'll do it like this. People were like, on the PC, the A, B, X, and Y buttons are actually mapped to A, B, X, and Y. And I was like, ooh, that sucks. If you have that controller scheme and you enjoy that controller scheme on the PC, you're pretty much boned. Like, you're not going to have a good time with London 2012. And if you want to use your Xbox 360 controller, you're not going to have a good time either. And that is pretty shitty that is the situation that we find ourselves in here. But, you know, if you think you can get over the PC controls, there is a lot of good game to be found here. Like I said, graphically I enjoy the aesthetic. I think the soundtrack is solid in its own right. And it really apes that kind of like 50s sci-fi / like beach party almost vibe that I enjoy. Please let me eat all these astronauts. Oh, we can turn the laser, get it to melt through all these. Cool. And then absorb them all, and that might be enough to allow us to get to the cork. Looks like we are getting pretty close here. It's weird how we got smaller, though. I was kind of expecting this to be like Katamari Damacy, and I could start eating planets or something like that. Apparently no such luck, though. So we'll come up through the top here. No need to do anything there, but again, you know, standard style. Thought maybe we'd get outside there, but maybe later in the level. Standard style for this, there will be areas that are inaccessible to us until we get bigger, and then we'll come back and be like, oh, there's extra paths opened up to us. I've never been lost at all. Nothing even resembling lost so far in my time with Tales from Space, Mutant Blobs Attack. But the control issue, man. I think for like a certain subset, oh, that's not good. I think for a certain subset of people, it's not going to bother you at all. And for a certain subset of people, I'm not going to even hazard a guess as to the percentages, it is going to bother you a lot. This is like a section where I feel like if I was doing this, oh god, I gotta get to that blob. If I was doing this with an Xbox 360 controller, I think I could nail this 9 times out of 10. It was the same way where like Super Meat Boy was recommended to be played with a controller by Team Meat. This feels like like the same situation, this game feels better with the controller. However, the controls are just broken. You know what? Let's just go straight up this time, because I think this might be the wrong way to do things. It's like if Super Meat Boy shipped, and they're like, oh, by the way, you have to hold the right mouse button. Like, gamepad recommended, but you have to hold the right mouse button to jump. In which case, people would have been like, fuck that. How about no, Ed and Tommy? So, we did miss out on our friends here. I'm not gonna say that I'm the greatest Tales from Space about a blob player in history. We can't even get out yet. Oh, yes we can. Oh, cool. Traveling too fast. Slow down. Could have used my butt stomp there, I suppose. I guess we gotta turn off these lasers. Or just use these control points to push the stuff out. That's actually much easier. It's rare to have these levels where you're spending the entire time in the rocket mode. Usually it's just something you stay in for a little while and then you eventually move back to like a standard mode. Okay, we did get that last cork, and now how do we want to go? I guess we go out this way. Get some cool stuff going on. Is this the end? Yeah. Oh, we don't want to go to the sun anymore. We want to go to the moon. I can't turn it with my mouse. What do I do? Maybe just turn it with my body? Oh, cool. And that is the end of the level. That is probably going to be the end of this Let's Look At as well, but we will head back to the main menu just to see if there's any modes I missed. I'm interested to see if there's co-op or anything like that. Rank 14th. That is probably dead last right now. Oh, well. No multiplayer. You can get the cutscenes. The cutscenes are alright, as you saw. Options for resolution and standard stuff like that. But other than that, this is Tales from Space Mutant Blobs Attack. One of the weirdest feels I've had about a game in a long time, because I'm profusely enjoying 50% of it and being incredibly frustrated by 50% of it. I'm not sure if I would tender a recommendation. If you want to play this game on your Xbox 360 controller or on some kind of gamepad on the PC, you're going to be frustrated. Just go into this knowing that. If you wanted to play this, you don't mind having somewhat awkward PC controls, there's lots of good game to get here, but I think controls are one of those things where you sort of have to experience it for yourself. Hopefully there's a demo or something that comes out that allows people to do that, but I'm warning you in all earnest here that the PC controls are awkward and, at least to me, don't feel right. It might be a personal preference, but I don't know. I play a lot of games. Something about this just feels a little bit wonky. That being said, lots of good stuff to see in Mutant Blobs Attack. I have literally no idea what the price point is going to be. I'm going to hazard a guess. This is going to be 10 or 15 bucks, a la something like Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.